Boom. Sunday sessions, here we are. Make it happen, everyone. How are you on this Sunday morning? A lot going on, and a lot of discussions around the mindset and what's going on. And I'm about to bring in the great man, Tony Meredith, for those Sunday sessions. Adam, thanks for coming on. Good to see you on there. Just going to link up with Tony Meredith and add him on the video for session to talk about mindset, about a little bit about personal development, where you're going, where you are right now, where you're heading to, and everything is happening around town. Thanks for joining, Tony Meredith. How are you?
Queenslander!
He's always throwing a bit of a shock, a bit of a surprise on there, which I love. Good on you, you Queenslander. You obviously won game one. We're here for game two tonight, so everyone's super fun
Bring it on
for tonight. And
this is the pre-match warm-up. This is the pre-match warm-up for tonight. You and I right now. Queensland versus New South Wales.
Maybe New South Wales would do better if I was there in camp with them and, working on their mindset, working on what's going on with themselves, make sure they're focused on that game. Maybe you were there for Queensland in game one, Tony. Is that what got them over the line?
Oh, 100%. Yep.
Absolutely.
No, look, it was a great game. So looking forward to it. But anyway, what are we going to talk about this morning, mate?
Well, you know what? I think on the back of, what you were just going on about Queensland and the motivations and the happiness and the excitement that you bring out of it, that is a true test of, finding some of that inner peace, inner happiness and, thoughts and feelings about what we're experiencing in life, wouldn't you say?
So, yeah, absolutely. So from a motivation point of view, it's interesting. So this week I had one client in particular who is, he's had big goals and he just hasn't been able to move forward. And now he's got to a point where he's got a limited time and all of a sudden the pedal's hitting the metal and his action and all sorts of stuff. And it just got me reflecting that, why is it that we know what we need to be doing?
Sure.
But yet we don't move forward, but yet we choose not to move forward. And it's an interesting phenomenon, and for me it comes back to, I talk about it often about understanding your why, understanding what your reason is. That's the first part. The next bit is then selecting goals that actually mean something to you. Don't just select them because the world thinks that you need to select something or your peers think that you need to select something. Select something that actually means something towards you and then create the framework to move towards it. But it just was fascinating because this particular client, he's got some wonderful goals, but now that the time frame is compressed, all of a sudden, he's now starting to get moving.
Why aren't people really a good reflection on what they really want in their lives? Why aren't they able to sense that about themselves? Is it too much about what other people are saying, the peer pressure, what you normally have to do as a rite of passage in life? Are they all the things that sort of hold people back? What do you think it is, Tony?
Could be. So from a goal setting point of view, the first thing is that the goal doesn't mean that much to you really. I mean, you're doing it because, again, you touched on peer pressure. So perhaps, New Year's Eve's a classic. I think I touched on this last week or somewhere recently about, we all get excited at New Year's Eve, but then 2 weeks after, we fall short. So we're not clear on what we want. So we want to start a business or get a property or whatever. And it's like, well, let's talk about the specifics of that. So specifically, what is it that you want? Perhaps there's some fear in our way and we're not able to work our way through that. So a fear of failure, fear of criticism from other people. I mean, fear of criticism from other people, I believe is the biggest fear that we all have. But there's judgment. Judgment. It's about worrying about what other people are going to say. What if I start this and it falls short? I hear that all the time. And the flip side to that, my response is, what if you start it and it succeeds?
Absolutely.
So what if you actually do this thing and it works? There's a lack of certainty, Luke, and I know that you and I have talked about this and we've sort of gone round and round with this piece, but I'm a firm believer that if there was increased levels of certainty, then people would get on board and they would do this. There's the whole range of reasons why they don't.
It's a piece on belief, right? Like if people have certainty, then they believe it. But without certainty,
it's 100%.
They don't believe, and then they're not thinking that they can achieve it.
They're not, and it's also about thinking bigger than you feel. So what do I mean by that? Let's take exercise, right? And not that I want this to turn into an exercise workshop every week, but we seem to go down that path. Let's take exercise.
Because we're two fit machine individuals. That's why, Tony. We're machines.
You're a machine. I'm an old bloke just trying to move. But anyway, but take exercise, right? So the alarm goes off and a lot of people don't feel like exercising. So what do? They hit the snooze. What does that say to themselves? What it says is that I'm not worth it. Okay, that's said. Now, you mightn't think that at the time, but if you keep hitting the snooze, it's like, well, I'm less of a priority. And so you can't think bigger than you can feel. If I only did things when I felt like doing them, I'd probably only do about 20% of the things that I do.
Interesting one, Tony.
Right? And so,
interesting one that Tony that's come up this week for me. Uh, there's been quite a few people that have had judgments on some of what I've been doing and saying out. Maybe they sense that I might be a little bit negative in my words and my thoughts. But I think it actually is leading to opportunities, and I guess people are perceiving it different ways. I'm always happy to talk to people about whatever comments, and there's people that have been out there saying you're an F-wit, you're a bottom feeder. We're getting all sorts of comments at the moment, and each and every one of those comments I go back to, and it was really interesting that out of some of the comments that were negative coming through to us as search party property buyers agents, and some of that reflection that came back, there was interesting to see the amount of people that actually were defending us and just saying, no, that's really awesome. Good. It's really, so for the one or two bad comments that we got 5 or 6 really positive comments. People would then DM me and say, how do you put up with that? How do you do that? And I'm like, hey, I put myself out there. I've got to be willing to take whatever that comes. And I actually enjoy some of that comments. What would you say for other people that are experiencing some of those judgments, some of those things that I have been experiencing? I can deal with it myself and have been for a certain amount of time. But what would you say to other people? Because we get this each and every day, Tony.
Sure. So it comes down to how important is your goal to you? So that is, how important is the goal that you are going to get criticism from other people? You don't have to go on Facebook to get criticism from other people. Just go to a family gathering. You'll open yourself up to an enormous amount of criticism from other people, right? So you don't have to go out there onto Facebook. But if you want to go out into Facebook, then you open yourself up to even more criticism. But how important is your goal? Because then, and I talk about this gates, right? And again, it's this mind game that I play with myself. But it's like, well, I've got these gates, and perhaps a gate in between me and my goal is criticism from other people. And I can either go through the gate, that is confront the criticism from other people, perhaps ignore it, perhaps do what you do, and that is feel some empathy for those people and respond, etc. Or I could turn away, and if I turn away and let that beat me, then my goal wasn't that big in the first place. All right, so to me, it all comes down to I've got a bigger goal, and it just means that there's going to be things coming in from left and right all the time, but that's okay because I know what I've got to do, and I'm heading on that particular path, and that path mightn't be straight, it might be varied. But there's going to be things that are going to be sitting there to challenge me and test me. And
that's exactly what I was thinking. It's those little challenges, and if you can't step through some of those little challenges that you're going to face, and the people that are putting you down, and how are you going to achieve anything, right? You're always going to the first sign of any judgment that you're going to go back to the couch and sit there and feel sorry for yourself.
Yeah, and it comes back to the single biggest fear, which I believe is the fear of criticism of other people, right? And that's what it is. We're all worried about how we're going to be perceived, and that's very inward thinking, right? It's very much about me, me, me. And if you flip that around and say you and I on Facebook, why do we do this? We do this because we want to help one person. We may never know that person, but want to help at least one person. So you flip it around and say, well, we're actually outward projecting. That is, we're wanting to project something forward, the knowledge that we have. We are by no means gurus, experts, etc. We're just a couple of blokes having a red hot crack, and we're happy to share with people and hopefully bring along some others on the journey. We want to share outwards with people. And so when you flip it from, hey, it's about me and how do I look and oh my goodness, and what if I say the wrong thing, to, you know what, I got some really great stuff in here and I want to let some people know. And if one person picks it up and runs with it, then you know what, and even if I don't know about that one person, I feel good that I've shared.